Folks, welcome back to another episode of The Fallen Badge. Today we're going to look at the murder of Officer Benjamin Deen and Officer Liquori Tate, Hattiesburg PD, Mississippi. Officer Deen had been with Hattiesburg PD for 5 years. He was 34 years old. Now he was married, had a couple of kids. Liquori Tate was 25 years old. Now he'd been with Hattiesburg for 11 months. Now, he wasn't married yet, but he was young, so I'm sure that was in his plans. Now, it had been, at the time of this incident, 30 years, I believe, since an officer had been murdered in Hattiesburg. Now, if you live in Hattiesburg, that's a good indicator that your town's pretty decent if you're not losing police officers too quick. Now, there's several bad people involved in this incident. One main one, and then a couple of more that were more directly involved in evil. But when it's all said and done, there'll be 8 more that will learn what happens when you decide to step off on Team Evil instead of doing what's right. It's May 9th. 2015. It's about 7:30 in the evening. Officer Deen stops a Hyundai 4-door on East 4th Street near the Bowie Street intersection. If I'm mispronouncing Bowie, I have to apologize now for it. Now the vehicle's occupied by 4 people. The driver, front seat passenger who is the shooter, and in the back seat is the son of the driver and then the brother of the shooter. Now, according to the appellate court in Mississippi, which is where most of this information is coming from, Officer Deen gets out of the vehicle and he sees a lot of movement in the front seat of the car. Now he goes up to the car and he gets her driver's license. He goes back to his car. Well, he asked for another car to make the scene because he saw that movement in the front seat, because you got 4 people in the car and you don't need to try to do much policing with that many people by yourself. So Officer Tate, he shows up. Now, after Officer Tate gets there, Officer Deen tells him, said, look, the driver's got a suspended license. And he says, in that front seat passenger now, he put something underneath the seat, which is good. If you're the backup officer, you want the officer on the scene to fill you in on what's going on. So what the officers decide to do is they're gonna get the driver and the front seat passenger out before they start trying to figure out what's underneath that front seat. Now later on, it would come out that the front seat passenger, the shooter, suspect number 1, as I would call him, he had that pistol in his waistband of his pants. And he told the other occupants of the car he was going to kill the police officers. Now, according to the driver, who is the girlfriend and I believe the baby's mama to suspect number 1, she tells him to hide that gun. She didn't want no shooting. And that's when he put it under the seat, which is what Officer Deen had seen. I don't know the exact positioning of the officers on this stop. Now, I take it from the wounds received by the officers that Officer Deen might have been on the might have been on the passenger side, and that Officer Tate was on the driver's side, but I'm not for sure. So Officer Deen, he tells them to get out of the car. That'd been nice if they'd have done them one at a time. watch one person at a time. And again, maybe they did, but it sounds like they ordered them both out at the same time. Now the driver, she gets out immediately, and the shooter, who's in the front passenger seat, he's kind of slow to get out of the car. And as he opens the door, he gets the gun back out from underneath the seat. Now, it's a Smith & Wesson .40 caliber, and he shoots Officer Deen in the head. Now when Officer Deen gets shot, the driver, she runs and gets back in the car. Then the suspect shot Officer Tate. Hit Officer Tate just below the Kevlar vest. Medical examiner said in the back, so I'm going to assume that Officer Tate was not in a good position to defend himself or his partner, and he was trying to find cover. And I also take it that neither one of the officers had their pistol out, since neither one of them got a shot on. Now the driver's hollering at the shooter to get back in the car, but he keeps on shooting, so she leaves. And then the suspect in the back seat, the brother to the shooter, he gets out of the car and takes off running. Information from the appellate court leads me to believe that he did so after the driver had went a little bit down the road. So now we've got Officer Deen down, and I believe he's going to be on the sidewalk. And Officer Tate is across the road in the grass. Now the shooter, he gets in one of the patrol vehicles. I don't know which one, but he gets in one of the police cars, and he goes a few blocks away, stops the vehicle on or near some train tracks just off of Gordon Street. Now no one knows the officers have been shot. Now I don't know how much time transpired, but at some point, two people there live in Hattiesburg. They're driving along, and they see the blue lights, and they slow down, and they notice they see a body laying there. So they stop and they investigate. It's going to be Officer Deen's laying there. They call 911. Now they did not see Officer Tate at first. It's only after they're talking to the 911 dispatcher that they see the second officer that said he was across the street rolling on the ground. Now one of the citizens runs over there to check on him. According to the citizen, said now Officer Tate wasn't all that alert, but that Officer Tate asked him twice about am I dying, and then Officer Tate tells the citizen, I know I'm dying. And then he asks the citizen, he goes, just hand me my walkie-talkie. So even in the last few minutes of his life, Officer Tate's he knows he needs to get some help over there. Now both officers are taken to the hospital. Now Officer Deen, he died pretty well instantly. Shot got him in the temple. But officially both officers made it to the hospital alive. Both officers died within a few hours. And within a matter of just a few days, the three suspects in the car are all arrested. Now the driver, the female, the girlfriend of the shooter, she got 20 years for attempted accessory after the fact of murder and 5 years for hindering a prosecution. And those sentences are to be served consecutively. So she's got 25 years. I didn't go into all the details, but she, the driver, that had been dating him for quite a while, she developed amnesia for quite a long time. She lied to the police, lied to the 911 dispatcher. Very foolish. I wonder if she regrets not telling the truth. In fact, I wonder if she regrets dating someone that has a propensity for violence and goes armed. Now, she's arrested within just a few hours. Now, the brother to the shooter, he's arrested the next day. Now, he pleads guilty to accessory after the fact, capital murder. Now, he's given 20 years. Now, they end up charging or arresting, I believe they charged 11 people total. Now, there was a fella who had stolen the .40 caliber Smith & Wesson handgun. He stole it from his daddy, so he must be an A number one human being, stealing his daddy's pistol. And he sold it to the shooter. Now, he pled guilty to that because, of course, they got him for the possessing that stolen weapon, and he also got 10 years for some other activities he'd done prior to this. Now, the shooter in all this, he got arrested the same night of the killing, and he got 2 counts of capital murder, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, grand larceny, because he took one of the patrol officer's cars. In fact, I believe it was Officer Deen's patrol car. Now, he never did get to have a trial because about 5-6 months after this shooting, he was found dead in the jail, and the medical examiner ruled his death as a heart disease. Officer Benjamin Deen, Officer Liquori Tate. End of watch, May 9th, 2015.